So hello everyone, I'm back here on Conversations again after many months. And as I've shared earlier, this is my passion. We all as women want to be empowered. There are lots of things that happen. And today I have Petra Hoffmann. Petra Hoffmann is a beautiful soul. From what I've known, whatever limited that I've known about her, she will share more about herself. She is a registered medical mental health counselor. She is a clinical hypnotherapist. She's a psychic card reader, internationally well known as an author as well, and has had many shows of her own. So here we are with Petra. She will share, let's hear what lots of things to be empowered with. Thank you for being
Hi.
here, Petra. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
Thank you for having me, Counsellor. I sure appreciate it. Gee, where do you start, right? Yes, I do all those things. And yes, it has been quite the journey to get to where I am. And I believe that where I am today in helping other people, that is what we're meant to do. That is our purpose here on earth, is to help one another, help ourselves and help one another. I believe that that's our purpose, is to spread love and light. But I never understood all that when I was going through all the traumas that got me to where I am today. What I do want to preface with is this. Those of you that are going through the most trauma, and we're talking abuses, sexual abuse, violations, abandonment, all of these kinds of traumas that we go through as human beings, those that have been through the deepest, darkest traumas and can find their way out of it, right? You need to have the tools to get out of it. Those are the ones that help the most people. And the reason that we bear those wounds so deeply is that we can bring an understanding, a love, and a compassion to others that we can't read out of a book, right? For example, I'm a mental health counselor. I can't learn that out of a book. I have to learn that by experience in order to really be able to go deep with people and bring it forward, right? So where does my story start?
Yes, so you have an interesting combination of subjects, like it is huge. And as a survivor of so many things, so many issues, and whatever that could have happened has happened. And how do you
Right.
feel now? And probably that's where we can start with.
How do I feel now?
Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, and I never ever in my life, having been through what I've been through, and I've been through all the abuses, gotten beaten as a child, sexual abuse that I didn't remember. I had blocked. I didn't remember till my mid-50s. And there were 3 points in time when the memories came back and only little snippets. I've been through so much abuse my whole life. It never ever occurred to me as I was going through my journey of this tortured life that happiness was even an option. And there's a difference between happiness and joy. Happiness is if somebody buys you a car or flowers. Joy is something that comes from inside. So what I'd like to say is I've never been more joyful, more at peace, more loving, more kind, because I was very angry, obviously, for much of my life. I had some major anger going on. That was kind of like my life vest, but I've had to let it go. I've learned that I no longer need it. And I feel freer than I've ever been. And that is all self-created, doing the inner work. It's not something that can be done overnight, right? Yes. Even as a hypnotherapist, you still have to pick up the tools. You still have to do the work on your end. We don't have a magic wand. And so it's taken many years of work, inner work. And I never thought I would ever come to a place in my world where I could honestly say, I feel joy and happiness and peace within myself. And that is probably my life's biggest accomplishment. Success is measured differently by different people. That to me is success. And to be able to pay it forward and help other people.
If you share the way you are comfortable, about your journey through your life story and anguish, pain, and coming out of it, I'll just you just take
Sure.
over and explain.
All right. I was born in Germany to fully German parents. And if anybody knows about Europeans, they're pretty darn strict. And I moved to Canada when I was 6 years old, almost 7. And people used to say, that must have been a culture shock. My biggest culture shock came later on when I moved from East Vancouver to Tsawwassen. That was a bigger culture shock. It was from a neighborhood that was a hard neighborhood to be in, to a rich neighborhood that I did not fit into. My parents were very abusive. I physically, mentally, spiritually, they didn't know what they were doing. And I thankfully never allowed them to break my spirit, or to break my spirit for very long. So when I came out of it all and I was kicked out of my home at 16 and then again at 17 and 18, I turned to drugs. And so that was where I found my solace. That is where I found my escape. And I was put on drugs initially with the pharmaceutical system, doctors. I had migraine headaches, which were real. And they put me on what would be known today as not tramadol, the opiate. Can't remember the name of it now. The opiate, it was called Furanyl back in the day. So they were heavy duty painkillers. And I loved them.
Frightening or very, very traumatic time.
Pardon me?
I said it is very frightening. I'm getting goosebumps, like you have gone through that period.
Yes.
As
So
a young adult, yeah.
I went through a lot. Yes, I went through a lot. I spent my life in my room. But anyway, I was put on these heavy duty opiates by the doctors back in the day. And then it turned into hard drugs. I was addicted. I went through detox before I had my baby. I fell in love and I wanted to have a baby. And I knew I was on the methadone program at the time. And it's the only drug in the world that goes into your bone marrow. And I wanted to be clean for a year because it would take a year to get my body clean. And 1 month prior to that year, I got pregnant with my daughter. And so, I'd done many bouts through rehab and finally made it through. And then I have to say I was a really good mom for the first 5 years. I was a realtor. I was taking my real estate license. I was working at Revenue Canada. I was doing very well. And then I fell back off the wagon about 5 years later. I thought that I could dabble and party on weekends, and the dabbling turned into another full-blown addiction. And there it went from there. Long story short, I came clean of hard drugs in July 2007. And that is a story that we will get to. but I want to see if you have any other questions. There's just so much. It's really hard to go over it all in 2 segments of 30 minutes, but
Yes.
I
How
lived
did your
hard.
parents, were your parents there with you at any time during this journey, supporting you any time later? Did you
My
reach?
parents were not supportive, no. I was, in fact, this is really weird. They never even told anyone I existed. And so I would meet people and they'd go, well, I've known your mom and dad for 10 years. I knew they had a son. I didn't know they had a daughter. They didn't even talk about me. They knew that I was on drugs and they were ashamed or whatever their story was. And I just didn't exist in their world. They were never supportive.
And
No.
any friends in the community that you had, anybody who was there, did somebody stand by your side, believe in you?
Yes. Yes. Throughout my journey, I had 5 solid friends that would do anything for me. One friend in particular, her name is Gail. She always saw what I couldn't see. She always called me her diamond in the rough. And I think, had it not been for her believing in the way that she believed in me, no matter what I did or said, that gave me the belief system finally when I came clean to see even a little glimpse, a little smidgen of what she could see and I couldn't. Because when we're caught in the muck and mire, we don't see our self-worth. I was worthless. You know, I had a lot of friends, but most of them were associated with, I had an entourage, as a matter of fact, but it was all associated with the drug world and partying. My 5 friends were my solid friends at the time, and there's 2 left standing. Because even some of them went away after a while because I suppose that they couldn't handle the growth in me. They stayed where they were, and I continued to grow and evolve spiritually, mentally, and we fell out of alignment, to put it simply. Yeah.
That's really good to know that. But then because if they were not in alignment with you, it's better that they were not there, because probably they would not have functioned well with you,
Yeah,
supporting you.
no, the other 3 were not into drugs the way I was into drugs. These were my sober friends. These were my solid friends. The others, they go by the wayside. And so, for anybody that is addicted and wants to come out of their addiction, there's no way around it. You have to change your life. You have to change your friends. You will be left alone for a while. And alone when you're coming off of drugs or when you're changing your life is a good thing, because that leaves you to do the inner work that needs to be resolved. That's where you find your resolve. But if you're not willing to let go of the life you led and try new things, new avenues, open new doors, and let go of all those old friendships, you're less likely to succeed. I'm not saying it's impossible. I tried it. The last time through in July 2007, I tried hanging out with people that were still using, and I was able to keep my nose clean, literally. But I discovered that I was being a martyr. It was like being the dry junkie, just in order to keep those friendships, and they finally went by the wayside as well. I couldn't maintain that, you know.
So when did you take up to mental health counseling and hypnotherapy?
Okay, so okay, I had 2 things that were my turning point. One was in July 2000. We'll get to that if that's okay. One was in July 2007. I had fallen back off my drug wagon, and I was using with my cousin. I had moved from Gabriola Island back to Surrey, Vancouver, BC area, and ran into my cousin, and it was her and the cross-eyed hooker. And I'd fallen back off the wagon, and there was this one night I had spent all my money on drugs, and her and the cross-eyed hooker were using with me, and we ran out. And it was in the middle of the night, and the cross-eyed hooker said, "Oh, I'm gonna go and make some more money and bring it back, bring the stuff back." And so I had fallen asleep. I had dozed off on the couch waiting, and my cousin had gone to her room. And I woke up on the couch, and I realized that the cross-eyed hooker, I can't remember her name, had come back, and that I laid there thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to. I had already tried to come clean so many times. I cannot do this alone. I don't want to do this anymore. I need help. And it was the first time that I was able to even say the word God out of my mouth. And I said, "God, I need your help. I don't want to do this anymore. This is really hard." And the next thing I knew, I stretched out my hand, and it was like somebody took my hand, pulled me gently off the couch, brought me down the hallway, and it felt like I was floating. Like my feet did not feel like they were even touching the ground. It felt like I floated down the hallway. And being raised German, I always knock before I walk into somebody's room. Well, I didn't knock. I just opened the door, and there they were, using without me, thinking they could sneak it after I'd spent all my money. And I said, "You know what?" I said to my cousin, I said, "I don't ever want to talk to you again unless you get clean one day. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want you to call me. I don't want you to contact me. I don't want you to make this difficult for me." And I walked out of the house. It was early in the morning, went home, and never used again. I could not have done it alone. You need to ask your guides, angels, whatever it is up there, to help you if you indeed are ready to give it up. If you indeed are ready to change your entire life and everything around you, please ask for help, and help shall be given. If you don't ask, you don't get. Right?
Yes, I agree with you.
And then my next turning point came in 2010. I had been sick for years. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I finally had a test that you have to ask for specifically. It's not included in your regular blood work. And I was diagnosed with hepatitis C. I had to go on treatment, which at the time was the old treatment, interferon and ribavirin. Interferon is a botched cancer treatment, and you have to inject it, and it's time released over the week. I've never been more sick in my life. It took me to my knees. That was, I started my treatment program, I think February or March 2010. My hemoglobins were so low that I was at death's door. They wanted to take me off treatment, and I said, "No, I will never do this treatment again." I'd never been sicker in my entire life. But throughout the treatment, I finished my book. I became a debuted artist at the Surrey Art Gallery. I was on TV. I was in the newspapers. I did a online marketing course. Oh God, what didn't I do? I accomplished more in that year and a half to 2 years than I've ever accomplished in my entire life. And it was soon after I got off treatment, but I was still healing, that I did my mental health counseling, which literally fell into my lap. At the time of treatment, I was a realtor, and I hated my job. I despised my job. I couldn't, I was a realtor twice through. I did it twice through, and I didn't like my job. And so what I will always say is hepatitis C is the best thing that ever happened to me, because it brought me to my knees. Time stood still. I was so sick, it didn't matter what day it was, what month it was, what year it was. And during that time, I got more accomplished than I ever have before or since. I've always been a hard worker, even through my drug years. I always worked. I was a high functioning addict. And yeah, and when time stands still, because there really is no time and space, there really isn't. And it was the first time I ever gave myself permission to sit still and do nothing, because I was too sick, and yet I got more accomplished than I ever have before. So there was that paradox, and it's brought me to where I am today.
So how do you explain, give yourself a permission? How does one give oneself the permission? It's you who is deciding, and kind of,
Well,
are you?
I remember the moment in time. I had been raised German, so we're go-getters, we're hard workers. I had always been racing the clock, especially in real estate. You're always racing the clock. And I was so sick, I just couldn't take it. And I remember laying on the couch with the television set in front of me, going, no, you got to do something. You have to be doing something. And in that moment, I get what I call downloads from spirit, God, you know, whatever you believe in that's bigger than yourself, that said, no, it's okay not to do anything. It's okay to just watch TV. It's okay to just sit and be. And I'll tell you something. When you don't know what to do and you sit still and you do nothing, that is the hardest work, and that is the most profitable work that you will ever do. And so I needed to, because of my upbringing, I needed to give myself permission to sit still and do nothing. And then everything else just came. The mental, the mental health counseling course came to me. The hypnotherapy came to me through a book I had read that fell into my hand. About past life regression, and everything came to me. Everything flowed to me after that. I didn't have to look for anything. I didn't have to strive for anything. What I was meant to do in this world came to me in ways that would take me another hour to explain. It was pretty cool.
You mentioned, did you write a book as well?
I did. I don't. It was a biography, autobiography. I changed the names to protect the guilty. However, it cost me my friends and my family. And I don't. I realized that writing a book created another whole business, and I was already doing so much that and it's quite an embarrassing autobiography. I think it was more of a self-healing journey. So if you are looking to heal yourself, write, journal, write that stuff down, because that is good therapy. Writing is the best therapy. Only I shouldn't have published it, maybe. But I am an article writer. I wrote for the 12-Step Gazette in California for 5 years. They ended up integrating with another magazine. The two companies merged and it became Addictions. What is it? Addictions Illustrated. And then no sooner had I quit, because I was now doing so many other things, and I had been writing a full page. I had a full page, no advertisements for 5 years. And I said, you know, I need to carry on. I have all these other obligations and things to do. I'm putting too much on my plate. And I quit the magazine. And it turned out that the guy that she had merged with ended up raiding their bank account, and everything got shut down very, very shortly thereafter.
Okay.
Yeah, I've written for lots of magazines. I love it.
So, tell me a little bit more about your options and the choices you made to come out of your situation. Like, how would you decide? There must have been very many decisive moments in your life to turn
Yeah,
your life around. Like sometimes one does fall short of courage and friends, support system. You feel the support system has given up on you. And so, what did you do? There must have been these moments.
yes, of course. I learned to go with my instinct instead of my head. To getting taken down to your knees will do that to you. Your gut is never, ever wrong. But your ego mind, which is only 5% of your brain, is often wrong. That's the devil and the angel bouncing on your shoulders telling you what to do. Go with your gut. I went with my gut. I learned, and it took a long time to learn, that I don't need affirmation from outside of myself. You know, I have huge accomplishments. If I were to sit here and name all of my accomplishments, I would miss a few. I've had so many accomplishments, and I couldn't understand why the world wasn't clapping for me, going, look at how far you've come, look at what you've been through, and look at what you're accomplishing now. But the world doesn't do that. And so I learned that you have to be your own affirmation. You have to go within yourself to find that support. And support, my biggest support has been from the universe, from whatever it is that's bigger than me. I am in touch all the time with what I call my guides and angels. And when I don't know which way to turn, I ask them and I sit still, and the answer will always come. And it will for all of you watching this today. If you do not ask for help in any regard in this world, you do not get help. Your guides and angels cannot intercede in your life unless you specifically ask them to help you. Right? If you went to work every day and nobody gave you a job, you'd be bored. So please know that if you're not asking for their help and services, your guides and angels are bored. They're just bored. All they can do is watch, watch us fumble. And so, yeah, I became my own support, my own affirmation, to where I no longer needed the bravo and the recognition from outside forces, not my friends, not my family, not anyone, because I wasn't getting it. And that left me feeling really defeated for a while. It's like, can't they see how hard I freaking worked? Can't they see? But they don't. And then, of course, there's a lot of jealousy and envy involved. If somebody else succeeds, there's always going to be jealousy and envy and people trying to take you down. And that has happened too. But I've always stood quite firm and strong in my ground. And another thing that people need to know is, you know, imagine a football field and you've got the starting line and you've got the finish line, you've got the goal post over here. Many people that are starting their own businesses in particular, you know, they'll run and they'll run and they'll run with the ball and they'll get like 3/4 of the way and then they give up. Because at 3/4 of the way, it's going to get harder. And now you really need to be your own cheerleader. And you have to get up in the morning and you have to dedicate yourself, and it becomes harder before the finish line. And this is the point when most people give up. And I'm not one to give up, right? And so I always plowed through, and that's how you succeed. And whatever it is you want to accomplish in life, don't stop before the finish line. Why go all that way? Why, you know, put your money, your time, your effort, your energy into that just to stop before the finish line? But that's also in a lot of cases called self-sabotage, where we think we're not worthy on a subconscious level and don't even know that that is going on.
I think we will have to catch on again with you in another session coming week. And but
Yes.
let me know, please, for everyone who's watching this. First of all, I'm very grateful for sharing so much information, so much about yourself. How do people reach out to seek support from you? Like, you are
Um,
a counselor, you are a hypnotherapist, you can, really help people heal.
that's what I do.
Yeah.
And love my job for the first time in my life. I love my job. I love my job. So I do cards, hypnotherapy, past life regression, but now I'm stepping outside the box and people are going to different dimensions, even long story. And psychic card reader. The best way to reach out is on Facebook, Petra Abilities, or Petra Hoffmann, Hoffmann, or my website, petrabilities.com. So it's Petra and abilities, Bilities. So petrabilities, one word.com. And you can always reach me there on Facebook or the easiest ways.
Yes, I will be writing all that on the Facebook page also. I will provide this information in the text as well.
Yeah, and I'll send you a biography. Do you know when you're going to post this?
Probably later on today, I will
Okay.
do this. Yeah, today I will just finish it today.
Okay. I'll send you a biography and then we can do part 2 same time next week, maybe.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I'm so grateful and I'm so happy that I met you in the first place. There was a reason, and
Yes.
we connected again for this program and show. Yeah, thank you for being
Yes.
here, Petra. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And if enough people are interested, I've been holding off doing meditation circles online, but if enough people were to show an interest, I would revamp them and yeah.
Yeah,
I've
let's.
been doing a lot of inner work the last couple of years, and I know I met you about a year ago when I was doing the circles.
Yes, yes.
And yeah, they will be started again. I've not been procrastinating. I've just had my own inner work to do. And that's the thing. I'll tell you about me. I walk the walk. You get a lot of practitioners that talk, they help, but they're not doing their own inner work. If I'm broken, how can I help you? It's going to display somewhere in the process. And so I'm always working on myself, always, and we're always going to be a work in progress.
That's really good to know and very encouraging. Yeah.
Okay. So
All right.
thank
Thank you. Thank you for being there, Petra. I'm so happy to have met you again today. Thank you.
yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And
See
we'll
you
talk
again.
to you soon. Okay.
Absolutely.